Hello and welcome to a new episode of EY India Insights podcast. I'm your host Pallavi, and in today's episode, we're joined by Rajnish Gupta, partner in Tax and Economic Policy Group at EY India. Rajnish brings deep experience in policy analysis, regulatory frameworks, and evolving economic landscape shaping India's growth story. In today's conversation, we explore the recently released AI governance guidelines and discuss what they mean for businesses, policymakers, and India's innovation agenda. Rajni shares insights on how India's light touch innovation first approach can support responsible AI adoption while balancing legal, ethical, and operational considerations. A very warm welcome to you, Rajneesh, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Pallavi, for the podcast. Delighted to be here with you.
Thank you, Rajneesh. So, to begin with, India's AI governance guidelines are described as light touch and innovation first. So, what does this approach mean for organizations and how does it balance growth with responsible AI deployment?
Yeah. India's approach to AI is actually a bet on innovation. So, what it really means is that there would be minimal regulatory burdens, the codes would be voluntary in nature, and no pre approvals would be required before companies launch algorithms. So, what this will do is it will allow businesses to build and scale AI without stifling growth, without really going to a regulator and getting approvals. So you go ahead, build, experiment, compete, and undertake voluntary safeguards based on how you see the risks. It, in its own way, is also signaling the regulators to keep the frameworks flexible and to avoid any compliance heavy requirements. So the real balance between growth and responsibility would be achieved in a way automatically as the people developing the algorithms will bear the full cost and they will reap the full rewards of their actions.
Thank you, Rajneesh. Now, the guidelines emphasize human accountability instead of assigning responsibility to AI systems. So, what are the practical applications of this principle for companies adopting AI, particularly generative AI?
Yeah. So machines or algorithms, they should never be legal persons. Only human beings can be responsible. Only they can be accountable as they are the only ones who can gain or lose. So for any business using generative AI, this means responsibility. So what it means is if the output has a negative impact, then the firm would need to pay either through impact on its reputation or potentially a lawsuit, or it may lose some customers. So, from a practical point of view, when people are looking at generative AI, some of the questions which are addressed are, for example, who owns the output? Would oversight be exercised in case something is not right with the algorithm? How do you correct? In case there is a legal action and there's a need to compensate, how do you take care of them? And really, the contracts would need to be structured carefully so that the responsibility is clear between the people who are developing the models or providing the models, uh, between the integrators, the people who are offering algorithms, and the business users, keeping in view the existing IT law, the consumer, and the sectoral laws.
Thank you, Rajneesh. Now, what should be the key components of the effective AI governance framework for enterprises that covers data quality, transparency, risk assessment, monitoring, and human oversight?
When businesses look at governance, they really need to see how the framework would be seen. And I'd put three category of stakeholders. One are the regulators, second are the customers, and third are the courts. So businesses would need to look at this as a risk management function rather than as an area of regulatory compliance. So some of the things which would need to be taken care of is one, the data should be sourced very clearly, very clear legal right. The data quality standards need to be maintained, especially the data which is used for training. so that the model behavior is in case comes up. And for algorithms, document and share as much as is possible in terms of what are the purpose, what are the limitations, what is the type of training data which has been used, and some guidance regarding what is the appropriate use or misuse, especially for the key customers who are there. While algorithms are being developed to record the design choices and the evaluation results, this can come in handy in case somebody was to ask questions at a future date. Then, of course, to conduct tests before deployment and to test out for things like biasness, robustness, and look at various scenarios which are there. And then to monitor on an ongoing basis. And finally, to ensure that there is a human in the loop so that if there are decisions which get taken which are of great significance, for example, loans, or it impacts jobs or health or law enforcement, then human in the loop becomes even more important. And AI should be seen as a decision support tool rather than as something which is giving the final decision.
So, speaking of experimentation, regulatory sandboxes are highlighted as a tool for safe experimentation. So, how can sandboxes help organizations innovate responsibly, and what checks are needed to prevent the misuse?
Yeah. So, before the IT Act 2000 really came into being, electronic signatures and digital contracts were not legally recognized, but people were transacting using electronic means. And what the IT Act did was it made sure that these are legally permissible. So what happens is, as technology changes, the laws may need to be amended, or you may need something new so that it's in line with the way business is conducted. Now, what the sandboxes do is they let firms test very high impact AI algorithms with real users in controlled conditions. So what happens is, what are the benefits, what are the type of risks which are there, and what are the regulatory changes which may be required for an effective rollout of that algorithm. So the algorithms must remain open, they must be transparent and non-discriminatory. So the basic risk which is there in the sandboxes is that they must be available to everybody. We shouldn't get into a position where only a particular set of players are able to get onto the sandboxes and the others are waiting for an opportunity for their application to be tested using a sandbox. And there should be a level playing field, and everybody, whether it's an influential player or a non-influential player, should be able to get the benefit of the regulatory sandboxes.
Thank you, Rajnish. Now, lastly, how do India's guidelines compare with the global AI regulatory trends? And what should be our roadmap over the next few years to strengthen trust, reduce risk, and promote ethical AI adoption?
So, India has a very free AI ecosystem as of this point of time. And the real contrast is taken with the EU AI Act, which is much more detailed, which is there, it's binding, and it puts a lot of strong obligations which are there on the higher risk systems. And there are specific bans also before it is rolled out. Now, that's not the case with India, which is there. Uh, we are saying that the algorithms would be subject to existing laws and regulations. So it is not that we are in a wild west, but there is no specific AI related law which is being proposed. Now, as far as the roadmap for the next 5 years is concerned, what we are saying is that if something goes wrong or if the AI is not responsible, then you address it through private litigation using the existing laws and not through any administrative orders or any checklists which are there. And it's really for the markets, it's really for the larger ecosystem to define what is the responsible AI and which has to be within the existing legal guardrails that we have in the country. And so the industry can have its own codes of conduct. They can make sure that the standards are met and there are independent audits, and there's a lot that the businesses can do. So I think going forward, what would be helpful is to strengthen the existing institutions. So it's really to make sure that people are educated, they understand the AI systems better, how it works, how it does not work, and so that as and when the cases come up which are related to responsible AI, then they are I'd say, trained, educated, whatever words that you may use, and there's a faster dispute resolution which happens. So the trust will take care of it as long as we make sure that there is fair competition. And in case anything is not the way it should be, then the existing system, which is there, the regulatory system, has enough expertise and knowledge to be able to deal with it.
Thank you, Rajnish. Now that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for sparing your time and sharing such valuable perspectives on AI governance.
You're most welcome.
And thank you to all our listeners. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of EVA India Insights podcast. We hope you found Rajnish's perspectives on AI governance thought provoking and useful as organizations set out to prepare for the next phase of AI led innovation. To listen to more such conversations featuring EY leaders and industry experts, visit ey.com/in or follow the EY India Insights podcast on your preferred audio platform. We'll be back soon with another engaging discussion. Until then, this is Pallavi signing off.